All right. We've got a very interesting Zoom meeting coming up. I normally run through all the things I have to say about umpiring, so I'm going to skip them. There will be an email sent out with all the coaching notes. I encourage you to all have a look at those items. But I don't want to waste any time because today we're going to hear from one of our umpires who has had a feature movie made about them, and not too many of us can say about that, or say that about ourselves. It's an absolutely remarkable story, and one that I only learned about this year, and many of you won't know about until this Zoom. So we're going to be speaking very shortly to Marquita Bond, who many of you will know. Marquita is the first transgender umpire in the Adelaide Footy League, and possibly the first in Australia. I don't know of any others. I first met Marquita back in 2015, and I'm going to show a picture of her. When I met her, she was assistant coach of the Port Adelaide Footy Club women's side when it was a part of the Adelaide Footy League. And she was an assistant coach in 2015, and she became their head coach in 2016. So that's Marquita. Many of you will recognise her. And I guess when I first met her, being somewhat naive, not knowing much about being a transgender person, it was a little confronting, meeting someone that was very solidly built in stature with a high-pitched voice. I guess it was quite confronting. As it would have been to many of you when you first met Marquita. But she always struck me as someone who was well-meaning, she was confident, she was a very friendly woman to deal with, and we always got on well. And I remember always having a chat with her before the game, and she was as Marquita is these days. So after a time with the Port Adelaide Footy Club, she went back to playing for a while. I think she went with Hectorville, maybe another club. She could tell us that in a moment. Before she started to decide to umpire with Adelaide Footy League at the beginning of 2022. Since then, she's become a very important member of our team, umpiring a game or two of women's footy each week. And it's been great having our group embrace Marquita. It's diversified our ranks. And I guess when I first started, there were a lot of white older males. We're starting to diversify, so we're less of that demographic, and it's only good for us in the long run. And I have to commend everyone for really welcoming Marquita with open arms. And I guess many of you won't know about her story until tonight. And I only learned about it when I got invited by Marquita to go and watch the premiere of the feature film, which we're going to talk about tonight. The film's called I Am Marquita, with the subheading Be Shocked, Be Inspired, Be Yourself, which is a very strong statement. I'm going to actually play the 2-minute preview of the movie, so just bear with me while I get that up. It's a trailer that is online. I'll put it in the coaching notes. You can watch it later, but it gives a little insight to the movie that will be released to the wider community shortly. So let's have a look at it. There you go. We are going to welcome to the Zoom now, not only Marquita, but we've got Andrew Dudak, who Andrew was the producer of the film. And so Andrew's sitting with Marquita today at Andrew's place. Andrew, do you want to unmute yourself? Hopefully we'll be able to work out that on your computer. And Andrew can introduce himself. Here he is.
Are you hearing me, Colin?
There you are. Fantastic. Excellent.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thank you very much, Colin, on behalf of Marquita, for this opportunity to share her incredible story with you all. And thank you, everyone who's in this Zoom, for attending, and thank you for your interest. And hopefully, Marquita and me can be here tonight to fill in any queries that you've got, give you a lot of background, and flesh out the entire last 5.5 years of my journey in this whole saga. Marquita's story actually began way back earlier in 2012. So we're here at your disposal, Colin, and we're more than happy to take this opportunity.
I've got plenty of questions, so hopefully I get through them quickly enough so others can put some to you. But Andrew, just on your background in film production, what is your background? Tell us a little bit about what you've done in the past.
Yeah, so early in my years, I was a trained actor. So I was doing stage plays and producing stage premiere productions here in Adelaide with a number of notable producers and directors. And in or about 2004, I moved to Queensland after a steady career and in TV, film and radio to some degree. And then in Queensland, I began getting involved more in producing feature films and documentary films, pilot series. And I was also appearing in front of camera. In Queensland, there's a lot of demand for big budget films. So up and coming Aussie actors and people from all demographics are usually more likely to get good paid work. So I was fortunate enough to be on a regular ongoing basis working in the film and TV industry in Queensland. And we finished up making an award-winning or an officially nominated feature-length documentary with some fairly well-known Australian actors. And for personal reasons, I left all of that behind to come to Adelaide in or about 2018. Not necessarily with the intention of resurrecting a career in Adelaide, because all of my experience in film and television was in Queensland over a decade or so. And it was at that time that I came here that I fortuitously bumped into a friend of mine from way back in Adelaide that I've known for about 40 odd years. And this gentleman happened to be a former employer of who at that time was not Marquita, but Mark. And Mark, being a burly 6'5", 6" tall individual at that time, was employed as a doorman at a fairly well-known nightclub in Adelaide at the time. And this gentleman that told me about Marquita's story shared with me that this would be, this is something unique. It'll do your head in. It's a bit mind-blowing. It's all pretty unbelievable. It could almost come out of science fiction. One thing led to another. We got to talking. I was privileged to then meet Marquita in person. This was way back in late 2018, early 2019. I was in the process of transitioning to Adelaide permanently. And then I made a commitment on behalf of Marquita to do whatever we could to put this whole story into film and document all of this and see what we can do to have it shared as far and wide as possible.
So what made you want to make the film about Marquita?
Yeah, the incredible story of tragic circumstances, impossible hardship, unbelievable adversity. I was aware that Marquita was going through a lot of judgment and a lot of discrimination and prejudice not just within the sporting realm, but in society in general. And by the time I'd met Marquita, she was still relatively young in terms of her burgeoning maturity and her mindset. And I thought, my God, the moment I first met her, I was immediately inspired and moved myself, Colin. And as I got to develop everything with her, I had to accompany Marquita to various medical appointments. I had to accompany her to see endocrinologists and GPs and other people to get a handle on how Marquita's story is so incredibly different to any other individual literally on the planet as far as we know. And this has been verified by 2 leading endocrinologists in Adelaide, one of whom was based at the Modbury Hospital. And she informed us that as far as she knows, looking at all of the peer-reviewed medical literature worldwide, there's nothing like it that they're aware of. And then over a period of time, I got to meet Marquita's GP, who's featured in the film. And he's a GP of some 30 years practice. And he, similar to me, you asked what motivated me to do it. This doctor, in the course of getting to know Marquita, not just as a patient, but as an individual with a heart of gold and a warmth and a real ability to just be herself, regardless of what other judgments and pressures are heaped on her by all angles. I got more and more inspired. Yeah. So even to this day, 5.5 years later, I still think about how on earth this has happened. What does it all mean? But the takeaway for me on a personal level is that we've all got a little bit of that essence of what Marquita is all about. And if Marquita can spread this goodwill and this ability to overcome the impossible and overcome darkness, overcome depression, then we can all do that by taking a leaf out of her book. This is what I've done. Marquita, by virtue of her chronological age, because many of you may not know that in 2012, Marquita completely lost whatever biographical memory. It's called global retrograde amnesia. So Marquita has no recollection of ever being a child, a teenager, an adolescent, let alone a male person, a father, a husband, a son, etc. That was all completely wiped from her memory bank as a result of we don't know what, but it has happened. And from that point on, she literally had to try and rebuild a life with an inability to, speak properly, an inability to even hold a knife and a fork. And then, through that whole decade or so, Marquita was helped by a lot of people, and she gradually evolved into the person that she is today. And as far as I'm concerned, I continue to be inspired by that. And the fact that there's about 500 people in the entire cast and crew over a number of years who have all met Marquita and they've all worked with her and they've all formed enduring friendships and relationships is a testament to what I've felt as well on a personal level. So quite apart from being a producer or a writer, it has affected me on a personal level, and I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity, Colin.
Yeah, Marquita, we are going to get to you. We want to delve into the story. But Andrew, look, one last one. I understood it cost around $500,000 to put this together, which is fairly budget film wise, but it's still a lot of money. How did you manage to finance that?
Well, 3 main ways. Back in the day, I was fortunate enough to rattle the tin with a number of people that had known me and that I'd worked with in the industry. They believed in the project, and this is like investing in film is not an easy, straightforward thing because it's fraught with risk. And back when you're not even looking at a script or a video or anything, you're just trying to pitch a concept. So we had a number of people who were willing to put their money behind this project. They all met Marquita personally. They were flying down from Sydney, from Queensland, A lot of my colleagues and associates were meeting Marquita. So, and then on a personal level, because I believed in it, I chipped in to the project as well. Our own entertainment lawyer is also what you call an executive producer, and he's had over 220 film credits. He's based in Melbourne. And the other way we've been able to manage that, Colin, is everyone from the top down. They've all made incredible sacrifices in terms of what they would otherwise be remunerated for. Because an indie film means an independent film on a low budget, and the definition of a low budget these days is anything under 5 million. So yeah, so we're ahead of the 8 ball, and now we're in a position to pitch it to the world and to Australia more widely.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, Marquita, let's hear from you. We've got 20 minutes left. Thank you for sharing your story, not only in the movie but with us this afternoon. What I would like to start with, and I know you, Andrew touched on it, you don't have memory of it, but what do you know about the life of Mark Bond?
Nothing. Not a thing.
Well, you know, you may not remember, but what do you know about Mark Bond?
That he had children. He was 6'6", about 100 and something kilos, 44 around the chest, I believe, by the measurements that I got from the doctors. It took me 7 weeks to find all the medical records from different doctors. So I didn't know much about Mark at all, and only through what was in his possession boxes. Everything was in boxes, and a lot of stuff dates back to the 80s. Yeah, so yeah, through the 90s. So not much really, Colin. Just
so he was a footballer, played with Central Districts Football Club.
Yes, I believe.
Yeah. And had, now you've told me it's not much in the movie about it, but 5 kids to 5 different mothers. I understand.
6.
6. Sorry, 6.
Yeah,
So, and there's footage in the film of Mark of him being at church a lot, heavily involved in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting character that Mark was. But okay, let's get to the crux of it. How was it that you got to transition from a male to a female?
Well, thank you for your question. It's hard to answer that one because if you haven't seen the documentary, then you really don't know what you're going to get with that answer. So you need to see the documentary first, then you can ask me that question.
Oh, let's get. I think people are going to want to watch the documentary anyway, and I think if you looked online, there is some information. I'll answer some of it for you. There was a medical research experiment that Mark went to, a bit like CMAX, who used to sponsor us. And it was 2 weeks after that transitioning occurred. So essentially, through no choice of Mark's, Mark turned into Marquita as a result of this medical experiment gone wrong. So tell us what happened to your mental and physical self after that transitioning.
A lot of pain, a lot of changes in the body, a lot of fat changing, distributing, face changing. Yeah, basically a lot of changes, Colin. Yeah, I went through a lot. And that was when I was also the coach of the Port Adelaide women's footy team. I was going through all those changes then.
As you mentioned, Colin, all of these changes were involuntary and spontaneous. So that when we talk about a transgender person, this is where the medical fraternity, they say, well, Marquita, she did transition, but unlike people who do it voluntarily and consciously with informed medical consent, the changes that Marquita went through were not done as a result of any voluntary conscious decision making.
And I guess a really powerful part of the film is just seeing those body changes. And Marquita, I guess exposing yourself and opening yourself up for that to be seen on film, that would have been a big decision. What brought you to the realization that you're okay to do that?
To show the world that's who I am. I have nothing to hide. The body has changed, and if you can see the changes yourself, why not share it to the world? It's not hiding. You can't hide these things, Colin, unfortunately. Doesn't matter how much you tape them down, they're not going to change.
What made you choose the name Marquita?
Actually, I didn't choose the name Marquita. I was going through some paperwork that I saw sitting on the desk. When Mark was going through these changes, basically he actually wrote down the name Marquita Eve Bond, okay, several times. And then after that, he then did the signature. So the signature and the name I've kept from what I found on a piece of paper. I was only known as M. I didn't have a name. M was non-gender, so it was easy for people to remember. So if people knew when I was coaching, I was called Coach M, not Marquita, or Missy, as people name me as in the footy field.
And legally, are you a woman these days, or what? How's that been taken care of? Do you?
Well, on my birth certificate, was changed in 2013 with my parents there. That's a really interesting situation that happened there. My dad was sitting alongside me, and the guy said to him, "Why, sir, do you want to change your name to Marquita?" And he looked at him and says, "What? I don't want to change it. She does." And he thought I was a biological female, and my mum was sitting on the other side, and we both had our jaws down like this. Because my poor dad, he's 84 now, and if you met him at the premiere, he's very old school. As he calls it, I'm old school, he says.
So I was going to ask you about parents. How have your parents been through all this?
My mum was supporting me originally. She reached out because someone saw me at a footy game, and they went back and reported because I was me. And they said that we saw Mark at the Port Adelaide Football Club, and they went back to home, and basically they said he was dressed in a dress, long hair, black long hair, and and so Mum reached out, and from there she's disappeared now because something's happened with the family, and my dad stayed. So my dad's the only one that's really my family.
Yeah, he's a very special guy. I can understand from the way you talk about him that he means a lot to you.
He was in shock. He's still in shock. He didn't think the Capri was going to be something he was going to be viewing the documentary. He thought it was going to be a hall, a few chairs, maybe a screen, and that's it. It was funny.
Now, have you ever considered legal action against the pharmaceutical company?
Never. We've never ever gone down that path. We've basically kept it that I've moved on. I'm happy. I don't know any different what's happened in the past, and I'm happy where I am today.
So how long did it take you to accept what had happened and being comfortable being Marquita?
Probably from 2014. Took me a while to understand what the world was all about. I didn't know too much. I just knew I was here, and that was it. Didn't know how to talk properly. I didn't know how to do a lot of things, and people took me under their wings and helped me be who I am today.
One of the key people in your life that features in the film was Mark's partner, Cindy, who has remained a very close friend of yours. Tell us a little bit about Cindy.
Cindy is an only child who had parents from England and Ireland. They're both now deceased, so she's all alone. I was asked to look after her mum and live at the back of her house, and I agreed to do that because that's what you do when you care for someone.
And you still live with Cindy, is that correct?
I live at the back of the house, yes I do.
Yeah.
With my cat Benjamin, he's a Bengal.
Now, you did mention to me that Cindy in the film is played by an actress, so it's not actually Cindy.
That's correct.
What Cindy wasn't comfortable in speaking on the film?
I'll let Andrew answer this question.
We knew right from the beginning that this was very traumatic because Cindy was deeply committed and very, very much in love with Mark. And she was the individual who was declined the medical treatment because of some medication that she was on that she disclosed. And then she recommended that Mark attend. So not only did she lose the love of her life, she has to reconcile the fact that she was a player in all of this unwittingly, unintentionally, unknowingly. But fortunately, Colin, they've been able to form a beautiful bond and a friendship based on love and trust and goodwill. But yeah, to answer your question, Cindy, we had to respect her sensibilities and her desire not to appear in the film. But we did the dialogue that the actress uses in the film, a very gifted Adelaide actress and director. She actually got to know Cindy, and her dialogue was based on what was actually recorded as well. So yeah, that's a really unfortunate subplot to the whole thing. But again, everyone is grateful that Cindy and Marquita now have a genuine friendship.
Like big sister and little sister.
Marquita, it's not really covered in the film, as I mentioned before, but the 6 kids that Mark had, have you got any relationship with any of them?
No. Not one, Colin.
Do you think you ever will?
Good question. I don't know. It's actually a good question that you've asked me.
Is it something that you've tried to reach out to connect with them?
I don't have any maternal instincts, Colin, so it's pretty hard to reach out to someone when you don't have any maternal instincts. Yeah, if I was able to have my own children, I don't know.
It is like children to a different person, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what discrimination have you been subject to as a transgender woman?
Well, I've been subjected to discrimination when I was the Port Adelaide women's coach through some toxic people who were involved. They've since left the club, and of course, Port Adelaide are 100% behind me in what I do and how I go in my future. When I was involved in football, I played for 3 footy clubs. I played for Greenacres in 2019. I played for Jets Cross in 2020, and in 2021 I played for the Hectorville Football Club, where I was 56 years old and I kicked 23 goals in my final season. So local comp footy. Represented South Australia in the AFL Masters 2018, and then from 2021 to now, I've just retired now. In 2021, All Australian and fairest and best over 40s in WA. And that's very much my second home, WA.
Football means a lot to you, I can see that. And
it means a lot to me, Colin, because I also like to see it to remain a safe, enjoyable sport.
And what made you want to become an umpire?
Exactly that. I wanted to make the game safer for the next generation so they can enjoy it in many generations to come. But also I've met some pretty remarkable people that I've umpired with, and I really cherish the way they support me on the footy field and how we back one another. And yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. I look forward to umpire with anybody who wants to umpire with me.
Now, I understand, well, I'm assuming that Mark had nothing to do really with the LGBT plus community. Has Marquita had much to do with that group of people?
I had the Adelaide Crows, the Rainbow Crows. I know the person who actually is the president. His name's Brett. And one of the years I was asked to hop on the back of the ute to do the Pride March. But I do the Pride March not for the LGBTQ. I do it for the sadness for the people that's been lost. And I had to wave the Crows flag around on the back of the ute. And everyone picked me up on camera when I was on the news. So that was pretty interesting. Considering I'm a Port Adelaide girl and here I am waving the Crows.
We'll work on you. We'll try and get you across. So have you been a support to some transgenders people along the way? Is it something that you found yourself reaching out to those people?
Well, with the transgender community, they see me as different. They see me as someone who's unique, and they wish they could have what I've got. And it's unfortunately they will never be able to do that. I went to a support group where I was sitting with all these transgender people, and as they went around the group, they started talking with very masculine voices. They were wearing wigs. They had hormones at different various years, from 5 to 10 years, still talking with masculine voices. As soon as they came to me, they said, "Where did you get your wig from and how long have you been on hormones for?" And I said, "What are hormones?" People, they just looked at me and they said, "Well, you're not part of this group because, yeah, you're different." I never went back.
I understand.
I do support the LGBTQ in the sense that I'm sorry for the people they've lost. No, there's been a lot of tragic loss to the LGBTQI system.
People that struggle with their identity.
Yeah, people commit suicide, take their life, and because they don't know what they're doing. And it's hard for me to help them because, I'm still learning things as well, and I'm different to them.
Yeah, but I guess your message is to everyone: just be kind.
Be kind and be yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I can say, Colin. Is be kind and be yourself.
So, how did you feel about being approached to make a movie about yourself? And how's the experience been?
Suppose I can sum it up with the shocked that I was asked, and then I thought it would probably never get off the ground because we had a lot of things happen. There was COVID, 2.5 years, and we were put in lockdown in production because there's no need to go with a movie or a documentary when there's no cinemas or people to go see it. So we just took a bit of a break, and then once COVID finished, we returned, and you've seen what we've done. I said to you, in the last 6 months, Colin, you need to come to this premiere and see what I've been doing. And when you saw it, your face said it all.
Yeah, no, I'm very honoured to have been asked. I knew this would fly by. I'm going to run out of time to open up to anyone else, unfortunately. But Andrew, just to finish off, can you tell me, what the plans are for releasing it, distributing it from here?
Yeah, so we're in the hands of about 4 or 5 major distribution companies currently who are reviewing it. We're waiting to get the feedback. We're going to be in the Australian Chinese, the Adelaide-based film festival here in Adelaide later in the year. A lot of the AFL identities will be coming to that. And just quickly on that, the whole AFL narrative is front and center to this whole documentary, Colin. You would have picked that up. We've got that whole passion that Marquita's got for the game, the sport, the love of it all. And that was the only thing that going to Marquita, there was a vague muscle memory of AFL.
That's it.
And she had to learn the rules and read the rule book, but that love and passion for the sport endured, which is an amazing thing in itself.
We've already had a message just come through. Matt Smith's asking, when can we see the movie? So well, I have asked.
We're going to have a private screening for you and anyone. Port Adelaide. I was meeting up with Port Adelaide just the other day. They'd like to invite a whole group of AFL identities and people from within their club. And we can book out a private screening at the Mercury or one of the Adelaide venues within the next 3 or 4 weeks. Not a problem.
Brilliant. I know there'll be a lot of umpires Marquita's probably not a good week to be showing it off, to be honest, but no, it's good that you are proud.
Lose or draw, you don't lose your team.
And Chris Davies from Port Adelaide Football Club features in the movie, and so does Graham Corns, who has a prominent role as well. So it's well worth saying we're about to get cut
And the
off.
great Peter Cates as well.
Yeah. And it's stuck on 40 minutes, so we're about to cut off. Thank you so much for both coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Colin.
We'll see you
Much
soon.
appreciated.
And Andrew, terrific job with the film. And Marquita, we absolutely love being a part of our group. And thank you again for coming on and sharing your story today.
I'm more than honored, and I'm also grateful I've had 2 grand finals. Thank you.
It's just the start of your career. All right. Thank you once again, everyone. We'll look forward to